Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome to Market Mondays. Hopefully, you guys had a great weekend and a great Mother's Day week. But before we're going to go into everything that's happened last week, as well as what's expected to happen this week. So, before we get right into it, in honor of Mother's Day, I'm going to give you guys instead of a dad joke, a your mama joke. Your mama joke today is your mama's so old that her birth certificate says expired. Get it? Anyway, so getting right into it. Last week we had a lot of volatility when it comes to mortgage rates. Just obviously talks of more peace deals and things like that. I'll talk more about what happened today. And then throughout the week, what we saw was a really big report called the unemployment rate report. Now, the unemployment rate report, what was nice is that it came in as expected and stayed steady at 4.3%. Now, on the day this report came out, what was nice is that mortgage rates improved. And the reason why it also improved, even though numbers were steady, was that it was expected. And two, the revisions of the past unemployment rate reports, as well as all the other jobs report, showed that there was more weakness than what was initially reported. So mortgage rates had a decent improvement on Friday specifically. Now we're getting into Monday. Now, if we kind of see the chart here, you can kind of see how the unemployment rate has been kind of in the same spot, but also elevated. Above 4.3 for the last, basically since September, probably for the last 6 months now. So we haven't been below 4% in a long time. It's probably we've been above 4% for the last year. And we reached our peak in November, December, especially with the combined reports of the government shutdown between October and November. Now we're going into Monday. Now now mortgage rates unfortunately are worse because of everything that's happened with the peace deal this morning. So Iran proposed a peace deal last weekend, and then what actually happened this morning was that the president actually rejected the peace deal because it had to do with reparations for the damage that was caused, and the big one, nuclear enrichment programs for Iran specifically, which this was all on a memorandum of understanding. This is what they kind of decided last week, that they would get to a memorandum of understanding last week, and that's what they were going to be working on. Iran submitted something, and President Trump has effectively rejected that deal. So with that news coming up, it only furthers and extends this conflict even more so, and that's why oil prices are a little bit higher, and as well as mortgage rates being a little worse. So we can kind of see what mortgage rates have done in the last 2 days. I mean, thank goodness we saw improvements last week, but the main thing is, especially beginning of May, we're kind of below the peaks of was it right the end and that very beginning of May. We're a little bit better than what we were before in terms of mortgage rates, and we kind of made up for we lost the gains we had on Friday is basically what happened. So we're back down to where we were before Friday started, before the unemployment rate came out on Friday. Now, moving forward, one of the things we want to talk about is the oil supply. Now, a big question out there you may want to ask is that if the U.S. produces oil, why are oil prices so high? So one thing I just learned this morning was that there's a difference in types of oil that we refine and we use. So the oil that we need to use and what our U.S. refineries have are heavy sour crude oil, right? Which is created from the Middle East. And a lot of countries actually use that heavy sour crude oil that's exported from the Middle East. The oil that we produce in Texas, specifically Texas, and because Texas produces so much oil, is called light sweet. So if Texas produces light sweet, but most of our U.S. refineries, because when crude oil comes in, we have to refine it, most of U.S. refineries are only refine heavy sour. So, and then that goes to the production line in terms of going into gasoline or petroleum, whatever the necessary use is. So that's what's interesting about this whole oil supply issue, is that even though we produce oil here in the US, most of the oil that we produce, we can't use our own supply. It's kind of weird. So we do export the light sweet to whoever is set up to use light sweet. So that's kind of really unfortunate. And if you didn't know, California imports a third of their crude oil, heavy sour, from the Middle East. And they just got their last shipment of heavy sour crude oil like this week already. So now we're in that's where it causes the heavy issue in terms of oil prices, is why oil prices are high. Now, one of the biggest solutions that they could think about is Venezuela, who produces the heavy sour. Unfortunately, oil is a global market, right? Even if we had heavy sour oil to give to ourselves, it's a global market. So they sell it to the market, and obviously whoever pays the most for it obviously gets the oil production, oil supply. So that's what's unfortunate, and it impacts all global markets in terms of the oil that's coming out. Again, about 40% of the oil that's coming out of the oil globally that's being used is coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. So that's what's tough about these oil supplies that we're dealing with, is that because the blockade and what Iran is doing with closing down the Strait of Hormuz, it does put a heavy noose on the tightening of supply of the crude oil that's coming out of there and how much that's being used. So goes to show you like why that's so important in terms of oil usage. Anyway, so that's currently the update that we have right now. We had hope last week. We're heading in the right direction as of today. Right now, there's a rejection of the memorandum of understanding submitted by Iran in terms of what they would want in order to open the Strait of Hormuz. So more to follow. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully we get at least where they're talking in terms of peace and trying to figure things out, which they kind of been doing for the last 2 weeks. So otherwise, that's about all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you guys have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon.